Good morning. Singing sounded really good today. Thank you. If you take the time to check in, let us know that you're here, communicate with us, use the app if you can. That's the best way to share information with us. We appreciate you taking the time every week to do that. And while you're on the app, if you haven't signed up to come to Vacation Bible School and you have a kid in your house, I encourage you to do that today. June 5th through the 7th is Vacation Bible School from 6 to 7:30 every evening. It is for all ages. It's a family type of event. You don't bring your kids and drop them off. You come together. You participate in the activities. You do the things together through the evening. It's a great experience. We did this last year, and it's real enjoyable to be a part of. And so I'd encourage you to sign up. If you are on the app, at the bottom of the app, in the middle is an events tab. When you touch that, it opens up a calendar of things that are coming up. The third one down is Vacation Bible School. You touch that, and that's how you sign up. Pretty cool, huh? Encourage you to take the time to do that this morning. Maybe even while the preacher is preaching, but you better be quick, because it's me, not Matt. Just kidding. I don't know. We're in James chapter 4, and this is the first sermon from James that I have preached at the Effingham campus. And I've been listening to Matt. He's done a fantastic job sharing with you, setting up this story. I've been doing most of the weeks down at the Clay County campus, and we are paralleling with each other. And we're going to continue this theme, this idea that he opened up in the first 12 verses of chapter 4 last week, where James says, what causes the quarrels, the fights, the relationship disruptions that occur in your life? What's causing that? James gives us I don't know if it's good news or bad news, that it's you. You're the part of the problem. You may be all the problem. In fact, sin arises from a desire to do our way, not God's way. Sin is at the root, self is at the root of most all of our issues with sin. And so, you're the problem. Good news today, right? That's good news because, you can fix you, right? You surrender yourself, allow God to transform you from the inside out, and you can be changed. So if you're having relationship issues, if you can fix you, that goes a long ways towards resolving the conflict that you're having. The bad news is that it's you, right? It's you. Stop blaming it on somebody else, and as Jesus would say, get the log out of your eye, and you might be able to see clearly to help a neighbor or a friend or a loved one with the speck that is in their eye. So it's good news and bad news, but it's you. And so that theme continues on as we pick up in verse 13 today. Now listen, he says, you who say today or tomorrow we will go to this or that city, spend a year there, carry on business, and make money. Why? You do not even know what will happen tomorrow. What is your life? What is your life? That's the sentence I underlined in this section. That's really the key question that we're going to wrestle with this morning. What is life? I did a little Google researching, background checking, trying to figure out what does it take to be life. And I found that scientists, biologists, chemists, doctors, psychiatrists, psychologists, they disagree on what is life. They all have different attributes that they think are necessary for something to be considered alive. Things like it has to be responsive in some way. It has to be able to grow. That's an interesting one to include. If the church is not growing, is it alive? Interesting. Metabolism. Some sort of process by which it transforms energy. It has to be alive. Many people say an item has to be able to reproduce, to create more of its kind to be alive. What is life? That's the question. And if you open this up just a little bit further into the vein that I think James is really focusing on, it's not just what is alive, It's what is the meaning of that which is alive? What's the purpose of that life which we have? Psychology today, probably not a good resource sometimes, just a heads up for that. This is their answer to what is life, the purpose of it. We evolved to live, so we live to evolve. That make you feel good today? We evolve to live, so we live to evolve. We exist to continue to exist is what that means. The 80s rock band Rush, anybody? Yeah, a few. Yeah, a few. They had a song called Roll the Bones. They said, we are here because we are. Roll the bones. I don't know what roll the bones has to do with that, but we are here because we are here. What's the purpose of this, though? Why are we here? What does it mean? What are we to do with this life that has been given to us? Jesus said, I've come that you may have life, and in that life may it be more abundant. But what does he want us to have? What does he want us to pursue? What is the meaning that Jesus would unpack for us here in life? James, his half-brother, is saying that there are people who they're doing business, they're making plans, they're traveling, they're establishing a good income, they're prosperous. That doesn't seem to be the essence of the issue, really, though. They're Christians, they're scattered because of persecution, and they're seeming to plan. Those things aren't the problem, the planning, the working, even the making money. That's not the issue. He says you have forgotten God in the midst of all of that. What is your life? It looks to me like you're kind of fading on me. Are we tracking? Is this too deep? It's hard for me to do that. Is this too deep today? What's the meaning of life? It's a pretty philosophical question, right? So are you taking notes? You writing anything down? What's the meaning of life? It's what we have. We got what it's not yet. Let me help you with what it is, right? Here's how we're going to do this. Hold your right hand up. Now forward. Put it forward. Everybody, get your right hand. Now put it back. Yeah. Hold it back there for a second. Now put it back in. Do the hokey pokey. Turn yourself around. That's what it's all about, right? That's what the song says. Anybody want to stand and sing and do it with me? Right hand. There's a cartoon, and I share that with you because this is a serious question, but it's a pretty simple question, really. There's a cartoon that this old sage is up on top of a mountain. He's painted up, like the wise old philosopher sitting there. And he got a little bonfire in front of him, and some trekker, some hiker has worked really hard to climb the mountain. And that's painted out on his face and his body. He's worked really hard to get to the top of the mountain to meet with this guy. And he just asked the question, what's the meaning of life? And the quote on the cartoon says, do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself about. That's what it's all about, right? What is the meaning of life? That's what James is wrestling. And he tells us that we are but a vapor, a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Well, what's the essence of what he's trying to teach us there? Life is fragile. I think many of you know that all too well already, don't you? Life is fragile. Tragedy, a disease, some accident. I mean, we know very well life can easily be changed, dramatically changed sometimes, right? In just a moment's notice. Life is fragile. Man, that hurts. When the disruption comes and everything is turned upside down, when the pain, you've been there, right? You know what I'm talking about? Life is fragile. A vapor is here for a moment, and then when the sun hits, when the heat rises, it melts away and is gone. It's short term, too. That's the thing James is communicating there. Life is temporary. 70, 80 years. I don't know. I use this passage a lot when I'm opening up a funeral because it doesn't matter how long the person lived that we are there to celebrate their life. people who loved them always wished for another day. Maybe not in some situations, maybe not days like the last days, but days of experience, days of the memory, days of the positive, right? And so it doesn't matter if it was short-term or long-term in the eyes of this world. It's temporary, it's short. I was thinking this morning as I reviewed this message about, it's been 7 years since my mom passed away. I was thinking, what do I really miss of her now? It's changed. It's changed over the course of time. And I thought to myself, one thing about my mom, she believed in me even when there was no reason to, really, sometimes, She was the first to believe in me, and I think she always did. That's kind of a nice trait to have somebody in your life who believes in you, and you know it, right? Somebody who's proud of you. It's temporary. Her last seasons were not good, and it was time for her to go. But as I've said many times, we're never ready for somebody to be gone. Life's temporary. It's a vapor. What is life? It's a vapor, a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. It comes to an end, at least in the flesh, right? We know that. We talk about that when somebody leaves. They're not gone. They've moved on. But that flesh life it's temporary. It comes to an end. Death is such a separation. Doesn't it seem like it's permanent? It seems like it's just never going to pass sometimes, that separation. It appears to be so final. So what is life? Solomon, if you're not despairing enough at this point, he's going to get it worse for us. Solomon is the wise man. He's got every riches. He's got every kind of fame and power and pleasure. If there's something in this life that people think, oh, if I just had that, he had it, right? And he writes these words in chapter 1. These are the words of the teacher, son of David, king of Jerusalem, meaningless. Meaningless, says the teacher, utterly meaningless. Everything is meaningless. Hang on, there's an answer to this. Don't give into that yet. Everything is meaningless. What do people gain from all their labors at which they toil under the sun? Generations come and generations go, but the earth remains forever. The sun rises and the sun sets and hurries back to where it rises. The wind blows to the south and turns to the north. Round and round it goes, ever returning on its course. All streams flow into the sea, yet the sea is never full. To the place the streams come from, there they return again. All things are wearisome, more than one can say. The eye never has enough of seeing, nor the ear its fill of hearing. What has been will be again. What has been done will be done again. There is nothing new under the sun. Solomon says, I've tried it. It doesn't mean anything. If you read on, he gives us glimpses of where he's headed in the story. He checks off every box that people try to find meaning in along the way. But he gives us a clue that there's an answer to this quest that he's going to reveal at the end of the story. And one of the clues is in chapter 3. He says there's a time for everything. Right? Footloose, the movie, those of you who are getting older and remember that in the 80s. The 8th grade class of Discovery Christian School decided that the walkout music for them when they finished their graduation here and went out of the room to be greeted in the foyer, they would play the line dance piece from Footloose. But I don't think they knew that come at the end of this whole speech. Maybe they did. I don't know. God has placed eternity, Solomon says, in the heart of everyone. There's a time for this, a time for that, a time for everything, a time to live, a time to die. But God has placed eternity in the heart of man. There's a clue for you. What's the meaning of life? What's the purpose of life? It's beyond life. It's bigger than life. When the mist vanishes in the heat, because it is short-lived and fragile and must come to an end, God has placed eternity in the heart. You see, when he created Adam, when he fashioned Eve, when he put them together different than everything else that he had made in creation, which he just spoke into existence, God fashioned Adam and he fashioned Eve, and it says that he made them in his likeness. In his image he created them. There is a godlikeness in us. And it's not just Adam and Eve. The psalmist says in Psalm 139 that he did the same for you, that he knit you together while you were in your mother's womb, that he made you on purpose for a purpose, that he designed you in his image and in his likeness. And just like with Adam and Eve, when that lifeless form is there, there is no life yet in the body. Everything is in place except the breath of God. He breathes into Adam and he breathes into Eve, and they become living beings in his likeness and his image. They are determined to be eternal creatures. So there's a part of us. This is important. Okay? I think we got to rest our hope in this, because the realities of life and flesh aren't all that good. But there's a part of us placed in us by God that is eternal, that doesn't end when flesh ceases. When the Son vanquishes the life out of us, there's a part of us that lives. And that's what James is reminding them of. If you read on. Instead, you ought to say, if it is the Lord's will. You see that connection to his relationship with God and walking in his will. James, half-brother of Jesus, oftentimes citing things that Jesus says, like the Lord's Prayer, the model prayer, our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be your name, your kingdom come, your will be done. If it is the Lord's will. So all things are viewed now in relationship of my relationship to God and his will. Jesus tells a story about a farmer doing well, prosperous. That's not the problem in his life, right? Sometimes we talk bad about the prosperity there. That's not the issue for the guy. He says, I'm going to tear down my barns and I'm going to build bigger ones, eat, drink, and be merry. And Jesus says, you're a fool. Don't you know that this very night your life will be taken from you and you're not rich towards God? See, that's the key. To understand what is life, what is the purpose of life, we've got to understand there's a part of us created to have a rich relationship with God that is eternal. It lasts beyond this fragile, short-lived flesh. Seek first, Jesus says, God's kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. If it is the Lord's will. Verse 16. As it is, you boast in your arrogant schemes. All such boasting is evil. If anyone then knows the good they ought to do and doesn't do it, it is sin for them. So to seek our will over God's will, he says, is sin. So to this group of Christians, Jewish Christians, scattered by persecution, living separated from a lot of things they knew previously, making plans in this world now, getting their feet back under them, looking forward into the future, thinking about prosperity and security in this world, he reminds them, don't do that without a relationship with God. Don't do that without seeking God's kingdom and his will in your life, because in the end, this life is short and it's fragile and you come to meet your Maker. I don't know a lot about heaven. Sometimes I wish I knew more. The old ideas that I grew up with, I don't know that they're that correct. I was never very interested in singing forever. I mean, a little bit's good, but not much of a musician. I guess God could change that, but the harp isn't that interesting at this point either, right? Sitting around on a cloud playing music all day. I think there's more to it than that, I hope. But if that's the case, it'll be good. However it breaks out, it'll be good, right? Because that's the whole point of heaven, is where all of the bad is gone. It's where we stay forever. It's where we don't have to worry about tomorrow. We just live today. It's about reunion, isn't it? That's one of the things I think we all look forward to when we talk about eternity. It's about being restored in relationships that we have been separated from in the present. I think it's going to be filled with that. It's about being in the presence of God Almighty. When you look back in Genesis chapter 2, Adam and Eve were walking in the Garden of Eden with God. And there's no shame with each other. There's no brokenness in their relationship with each other. There's no brokenness in their relationship with God. They walk together. They share life together. I think that's heaven. And that's forever. I think heaven is going to be, I think it's going to be an adventure. I think it's going to be endless opportunities, endless challenges, endless things to do maybe. In a good sense, work's not bad. I think it'll be somewhere we can be positively productive. And it's definitely going to be a place where we don't get sick. And we don't physically break down. We don't grieve. We don't experience loss. Where people we care about don't die. Where we don't have separation anymore. I'm looking forward to those parts of heaven. I don't know how that's all going to play out exactly. Nobody really does. But there's one thing I do know for certain about heaven, and that is not everybody goes. That's a harsh fact that Jesus talks about. And not everybody goes. Nobody goes of their own merit. So it's not about being better than a neighbor. It's not about being more religious than somebody else. It's not about being less bad than somebody else. And it's not this scale thing that so many people want to do where your good outweighs your bad. It's about, did you consider what's the Lord's will? What's his desire for life, for you, for eternity? You see, it's not the prosperity that's the problem, or the job, or the planning, or the going to work that James is pointing out is the problem, but they're doing so without a relationship with God, just like Jesus said with the rich man who built bigger barns. He just wasn't rich towards God. So not everybody's going to go. How do you go? Through Jesus. He said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes to the Father, that's heaven, except through me. So have you trusted in Jesus to take you there? Life is short. It's fragile. And this life in the flesh comes to an end. But heaven, that's forever. Like, forever? Never ends. No passage of time. It just goes on and on. And it is secure. You're not going to go there and lose it someday. You're going to go there and stay in the presence of God, because there's no death there. There's just life. Jesus paved the way for us to go. We're going to celebrate that this morning in just a moment by remembering his death. The key to his death, though, is that it's not because of his sin, but because of ours. He stepped in and took our place. And here's the good part. He resurrected from the dead on the third day. He conquered this beast that we can't beat. He overcame death by coming back on the third day. And we celebrate that this morning as we remember his death. His death brings to us the hope that we too shall overcome death through Jesus. Let's celebrate that as we partake of these emblems together this morning. Would you pray with me? Father, we thank you. You've been good, so good to us. When we've gone our way and rejected you, you came after us. You've been wooing us back to you. You gave us your Son while we were yet sinners and we didn't know. But we needed him. He came that we might have life. Lord, as we partake of these emblems this morning, we say thank you. Thank you that you stepped in and took our place. Thank you that we have hope and peace in this life. Thank you that eternity can be ours because of what Christ has done for us. Help us to live our life in your will for your glory. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. If you got a relationship